Caldera. 9 had 2 suns and bad decisions to qualify as a human colony. At noon, both suns burned above Dust Haven, bleaching the frontier street until every plank, hitching rail, and battered sign seemed carved from copper. 6-legged riding beasts stamped in the dust beside mechanical horses. Neon advertisements blinked over buildings designed like 19th-century saloons, because humanity had crossed 800 light-years and decided civilization peaked around 1885. The Last Chance Saloon stood at the center of town. Inside, miners drank beside smugglers. A 3-eyed card-sharp cheated a human prospector. An old earth piano tune staggered from the corner. Then the swinging doors opened. Conversation died. For Carvax, raiders entered. Vorik stood nearly 8 feet tall, red-skinned and broad enough to make the doorway seem apologetic. Scarred armor covered his chest. His left hand gripped a woman's shoulder. She stumbled once, recovered, and lifted her chin. Every person in the saloon recognized her. Queen Veilira of Nithra wore damaged ceremonial armor of black-violet metal, its gold filigree scratched by battle. Dust marked her blue skin. Dark indigo hair had escaped its royal braids, falling around a face composed with painful determination. Yet her crown remained. He wanted witnesses to understand exactly who had been dragged into Dust Haven. Veilira had boarded the diplomatic cruiser Dawn of Nithra. An explosion tore through its navigation deck. Her guards vanished. Her encrypted distress signal somehow reached mercenaries before it reached her fleet. Someone close had known. Vorik shoved her forward.
Look carefully. A queen is worth 30 million crowns alive. Anyone interfering becomes worth nothing dead.
Veilira searched the room. 2 Nithran miners stared into their drinks. A silver-haired bounty hunter slowly removed his hand from his pistol. The bartender polished a spotless glass. Veilira felt something inside her settle into cold understanding. She had spent years being obeyed. Now danger had stripped ceremony from everyone around her. Vorik leaned closer. Your regent sends his gratitude. Her breath stopped. Regent. There was no regent while Veilira lived. Before she could demand a name, a chair scraped near the kitchen. Sheriff Pell rose, badge shining on his vest. Hope returned. The sheriff adjusted his hat, then walked through the kitchen door. A different door creaked behind them. Everyone turned. A human stood between the swinging panels. He looked about 30, lean rather than imposing, in a weathered coat. A faded red scarf hung around his neck. A black cowboy hat shadowed his eyes. An antique revolver hung at one hip, a plasma sidearm at the other. Did I miss something? He walked to the bar. The bartender whispered, "Friend, leave. Water. Leave. Water first." Vorik stared at him. Human. The stranger glanced over. Good guess. Vorik's jaw tightened. Veilira studied the newcomer. He had noticed the exits before approaching the bar. His weight rested perfectly balanced. Vorik dragged Veilira against him. The human's expression changed. Barely. Yet the humor vanished from his eyes. "Release her," he said. Vorik showed his teeth. "Do you know who I am?" "No. I am Vorik Bloodhand." The human considered this. Bit dramatic. Vorik slammed his fist onto a table, splitting it. The stranger looked at the broken wood. "That table owed you money?" Veilira should not have found it funny. She almost did. Vorik seized her throat and raised his pistol. "Take your hand off her." Vorik gave him 10 seconds. "Generous," the stranger replied. "Most people give me 5. The first Carvax charged. The human stepped aside. Momentum carried the raider into the bar. The stranger smashed a wooden tray across his helmet, caught the falling bottle, and hurled it into the second raider's weapon hand. The saloon erupted. A third raider activated a targeting visor. The human threw his hat. "Technology," he muttered, punching the blinded warrior. "Wonderful thing." Veilira drove her heel into Vorik's boot. His grip loosened. She twisted free. The stranger kicked a chair toward her. Veilira caught it, swung, and dropped a charging mercenary. He blinked. "Queen." "Yes." "Nice." Vorik roared and lunged. The human ducked beneath the blow and drove his shoulder into Vorik's ribs. "Well," the human said, backing away. That would have worked better on somebody smaller. Vorik drew a blade. Honor duel. The stranger raised his revolver. You must accept the 17 laws of Karvak's combat. 17. Vorik began reciting them. At Rule 8, the human punched him. Vorik crashed through the swinging doors. Human rules are shorter. Outside, mounted raiders thundered toward the saloon. Dozens. Vorik staggered upright and smiled through bloodless bruising. The regent wants her alive. You human, he wants erased. The stranger retrieved his hat. Veilira stared at him. You still don't know who I am, do you? Nope. I am Queen Veilira of Nithra. He looked at her crown, then at the approaching riders. Been a rough Tuesday, your majesty? Laughter escaped her. The stranger pointed toward 2 tethered mounts. You ride. I command battle cruisers. I'll mark that down as maybe. They ran. Behind them, Dusthaven watched the queen who had entered as a prisoner race into the desert beside a man with no name. For 11 years, Veilira had believed courage belonged to trained guards, decorated admirals, and people whose names appeared in history books. Dusthaven had overturned that belief in minutes. Men who knew her title had looked away. A stranger who knew nothing about her had stepped forward. She could not decide whether humanity produced fools or extraordinary heroes. Perhaps the distinction was mostly timing. As their mounts tore across the copper plain, the nameless man glanced back, saw the raiders gaining, and grinned like danger had personally insulted him. Veilira tightened her reins. Whatever came next, she was no longer alone. Ahead, the horizon filled with enemies, and beneath the thunder of approaching riders, Veilira remembered Vork's words. Your regent. Someone had already begun ruling her kingdom as though she were dead. The desert swallowed Dusthaven behind them. Veilira rode hard beneath the twin suns, her stolen mount pounding across copper sand. Beside her, the nameless human leaned low over his saddle, as if being chased by 30 armed raiders were an appointment. A plasma bolt struck the ground behind them. Friends of yours, he shouted. I was about to ask you. Mine usually shoot straighter. Another bolt scorched past his hat. He reconsidered. Actually, that could be Gary. Veilira had no idea who Gary was. She suspected Gary did not exist. Ahead, black cliffs split the desert. The human pointed toward a narrow canyon. There, that canyon is a dead end. You know this moon? I studied its military surveys. Wonderful. Then you know exactly how bad my idea is. He turned into the canyon. Veilira muttered something profoundly unqueenly and followed. The passage narrowed until the riders behind were forced into single file. The human slowed near a rusted mining tower, drew his antique revolver, and fired once. The bullet struck a corroded support. Nothing happened. Veilira stared. That was your plan? Give it a second. The tower groaned. A tower collapsed across the canyon behind them, throwing dust and metal between the fugitives and Vork's riders. The human holstered his weapon. Old technology. Very patient. Veilira looked at him differently. Luck did not explain him. They rode until sunset, eventually reaching a wrecked human survey station half buried beneath crimson dunes. Inside, the stranger activated emergency power. One yellow lamp flickered above battered lockers and an ancient communications console. Veilira sat against the wall while he examined a cut on her forearm. I can manage. I know. Yet he cleaned it anyway, careful. She watched his hands. Scarred knuckles. Steady fingers. You fight like a soldier. No. You shoot like one. Lots of people shoot. You evaluate exits before entering rooms. That's called wanting to keep breathing. What are you? He tied the bandage. Currently? Thirsty. Despite herself, Veilira smiled. He handed her water. They listened to desert wind whisper against the station. Then he asked, why didn't anybody help you? The question struck harder than Vork's threats. They were afraid. That explains them. His gaze remained on her. Doesn't explain why it surprised you. Veilira lowered the cup. Since childhood, courtiers had bowed when she entered. Admirals had sworn to die for her. Nobles competed for her attention. Yet in Dusthaven, strangers had shown her the difference between loyalty and ceremony. I believe the crown meant something. It does. Apparently not enough. He leaned against the opposite wall. Crowns tell people who you are supposed to be. Trouble tells you who they are. Veilira studied him. And what did trouble tell me about you? That I make terrible financial decisions. She laughed again, softer this time. The sound startled her. He smiled. She was not Queen Veilira. He was not the mysterious human who had attacked 4 Carvax warriors. They were simply 2 exhausted people beneath a failing lamp. What do you want? He asked. She frowned. From your life. No minister had ever asked that. Her answers had always been predetermined. Stability, prosperity, alliances, heirs. I don't know. Good. Good. Means you might eventually find out. Outside, the last sunlight bled across the dunes. The console suddenly chimed. Veilira stood. A royal transmission filled the cracked screen. Lord Chancellor Serac appeared in ceremonial black. Her oldest advisor. Her father's friend. The man who had kissed her forehead at her coronation. Citizens of Nithra, Serac announced. With unbearable sorrow, I confirm that Queen Veilira perished when her vessel was destroyed. Veilira stopped breathing. The human moved beside her. Serac continued. Until succession is resolved, I have accepted emergency authority as regent. Your regent. Vorik's words returned. The betrayal suddenly had a face. Veilira reached for the transmitter, but the human caught her wrist. If he thinks you're dead, being alive is your advantage. My people are being deceived. Then we prove it before he learns you survived. The broadcast changed. Images appeared of royal officers being arrested for alleged treason. Veilira recognized every face. Her loyal commanders. Serac was dismantling her kingdom. She looked toward the human. We returned to Nithra. He stared at the screen, then at her. That planet currently believes you're dead. Your government is hunting your friends, and somebody paid Vorik to kidnap you. Yes. And you want to walk back in? Yes. A slow grin appeared. I was worried you'd suggest something stupid. She raised an eyebrow. That was sarcasm, Your Majesty. I know. Before either could smile, the console screamed another warning. A classified royal signal had found them. Across the screen appeared one sentence. Target confirmed alive. Then the station computer displayed the ships approaching Caldera 9. They carried Veilira's royal insignia. The royal ships descended before midnight. Veilira watched their lights sweep across the desert through the survey station's cracked window. Once, that silver insignia had meant home. Now every approaching engine sounded like betrayal wearing familiar colors. How many? She asked. The human studied the scanner. 6 gunships. Against us? Technically, against you. I remain unpopular recreationally. She gave him a look, trying to keep morale up. Try silence. Cruel monarchy. A transmission cracked through the console. By authority of Regent Serac, surrender Queen Veilira and any accomplices. The human leaned toward the microphone. Counteroffer. Veilira narrowed her eyes. He pressed a key. Ancient Earth music burst across the military frequency. Bright drums. Cheerful synthesizers. A male singer promising devotion. Veilira stared. What is this? Cultural warfare. The gunship commander shouted. Identify yourself. The human increased the volume. You just got rickrolled. I do not understand that threat. That's what makes it timeless. Even Veilira laughed. Then missiles struck outside. The station shook. Humor vanished. Back exit, the human ordered. They ran through a maintenance tunnel as firelight flashed behind them. At the tunnel's end waited something beneath a dust cover. He pulled it away. Veilira saw an ancient human smuggling craft patched with mismatched armor. Painted across its hull were the words "the bad decision." No, it flies. That is not reassurance. It flew recently. How recently? He opened the hatch. Depends how historians define recently. They launched as royal soldiers entered the station. The bad decision climbed between canyon walls, engines shrieking like offended machinery. Veilira strapped herself into the co-pilot seat while warning lights illuminated the cockpit. 3 gunships behind us, she said. Only 3. The others are cutting us off. See? Optimism. He rolled the ship beneath a rock arch. One pursuing gunship clipped stone and spun away. Veilira grabbed the console. "You are insane," frequently suggested, but she saw a calculation beneath the recklessness. Every turn exploited terrain. Every apparent mistake forced their pursuers into worse positions. "You were military." His expression hardened. "I told you no. You told me you were not a soldier. That is different." Silence. The ship escaped the canyon and climbed toward the stars. Finally, he said, "There was a frontier unit. Human Special Operations Group 9. Veilira knew the name. They vanished 12 years ago. We didn't vanish." His voice lost all humor. "Our government needed a peace treaty. We discovered the people signing it were selling colonies to raiders. Command ordered us to retrieve proof, then decided the proof was inconvenient." Veilira understood before he finished. "They abandoned you. They erased us." The stars reflected across his face. No records, no medals, no graves. Officially, Group 9 never existed. "And your name?" "Went with it." Something tightened inside her. This man had walked into a saloon for a stranger after learning what happened when institutions decided people were expendable. "Why did you help me?" He kept his eyes forward. Everybody else was looking away. That cannot be the entire reason. It's enough. For Veilira, somehow, it was. She reached across the console and placed her hand over his. He froze. "When this ends," she said, "choose a name." "Why?" "Because someone should remember you." His guarded expression broke for one heartbeat. Then alarm screamed. Nithra appeared ahead, blue and violet beneath its moons. Hundreds of ships surrounded the planet. Sirac's coronation fleet. The human looked at the armada. "We need a plan." Veilira straightened. "There are tunnels beneath my palace. I can enter unseen, release imprisoned commanders, and reach the broadcast chamber. And me? You stay alive. Terrible assignment. I am serious. So am I." He studied the tactical display, then smiled. Veilira recognized that smile now. It meant civilization was about to regret giving humans access to machinery. "What are you planning?" "You use the tunnels. And you?" "I'll use the front door. That is an army." "I noticed. You cannot fight an army alone." "Good thing I'm bringing the bad decision." Before she could stop him, he opened an ancient entertainment archive and selected another file. "What now?" "Research." The title appeared. "Die Hard." Veilira stared at him. "You are basing an invasion on an old Earth movie?" "Inspiration, Your Majesty." "You are impossible." "So I've survived." Their ship slipped toward Nithra beneath stolen identification codes. Below, palace towers glittered around the capital, beautiful and occupied. Then Veilira's console intercepted Sirac's private order. She read it twice. Her blood chilled. The coronation was not his final objective. At midnight, every commander who refused allegiance would be executed. And afterward, Sirac intended to activate Nithra's orbital cannon against the capital itself. Millions would become hostages. Veilira looked at the countdown. 53 minutes. Beside her, the human loaded his revolver. Returning home was no longer restoration. It was war. Nithra's palace bells began counting down to midnight as the bad decision skimmed beneath the capital's defense grid. At 47 minutes, Veilira entered the forgotten royal tunnels. At 46, the human crashed through the palace's front gate. The ancient smuggling ship punched through a ceremonial barricade, scattered Sirac's soldiers, and stopped beneath a marble statue of Veilira's grandfather. Over the palace frequency, his voice crackled. "Parking here always this difficult?" The tunnels smelled of stone and rainwater. She reached the detention wing, disabled the locks, and found 12 loyal commanders awaiting execution. Admiral Theron stared at her, as though seeing a ghost. "Your Majesty, I've been dead long enough." She handed him a rifle. "Take back my palace." The human moved through corridors with infuriating efficiency. He overturned banquet tables for cover, redirected security drones, and trapped one squad behind magnetic doors. When soldiers surrounded him in the grand gallery, he raised his hands. Before everyone makes regrettable career choices, has anybody here seen Die Hard? Blank faces answered. Tragic education system. The lights vanished. Seconds later, weapons clattered across the floor. Veolira's commanders struck from below, while citizens outside the palace began receiving her emergency broadcast. "I am Veolira," she declared into the transmission chamber. "I am alive. Chancellor Serac betrayed Nithra." She transmitted Vorik's intercepted orders, payment records, and Serac's command authorizing her capture. He fled toward the throne chamber. Vorik waited there. The Karvax warlord charged the human before Veolira arrived. "You again? Missed me?" Vorik swung. The human ducked. A pillar cracked. "That seems expensive." The second blow threw him across the floor. Veolira entered as Vorik lifted him by his coat. She fired. The shot struck Vorik's armor and forced him backward. "Take your hand off him," she said. The human, dangling awkwardly, glanced toward her. "Nice callback." Together they fought. Veolira attacked with disciplined precision. The human fought like physics had personally offended him. Vorik endured both until the human noticed the ceremonial throne platform's damaged support. He smiled. Veolira groaned. "What? I know that smile." "Good." He shot the support. The platform collapsed beneath Vorik, dropping the warlord into the empty council chamber below. Serac appeared above them, holding the orbital cannon controls. "You have won nothing." Veolira raised her weapon. Serac laughed. "The cannon fires in 6 minutes. Kill me, and it fires automatically." The human studied the control display. "The command vessel." Veolira understood. "No. I can reach it." "No." Veolira. It was the first time he had spoken her name without title or joke. "Come back," she whispered. His smile was smaller now. "I'll try." He ran. 5 minutes later, one obsolete human fighter launched toward Serac's fleet. The human flew between them, beneath them, through formations their computers considered suicidal. Serac stared at the tactical screen. "Why can't they predict him?" Veolira almost laughed. "Because your computers assume he wants to survive." The fighter vanished beneath the cannon vessel. 30 seconds remained. 20. 10. The orbital cannon went dark. The human's signal had disappeared. The palace erupted in victory, yet Veolira stood beside the shattered windows searching smoke-filled stars. Then something limped through the clouds. One engine. Half a wing. Veolira laughed through sudden tears. The fighter landed. The human emerged, burned coat smoking but upright. Hours later, beneath Nithra's moons, Veolira found him alone on the palace balcony. "What will you do now?" she asked. "Disappear." "No." He looked at her. She extended her hand. "Choose a name." After a long silence, he took it. "Cole Mercer." "Then stay, Cole Mercer." "As what?" Veolira smiled. "Something no crown can command." Cole looked toward the woman an entire saloon had abandoned, then toward their joined hands. "Why me?" "Because everyone else saw a queen." Her fingers tightened around his. "You saw someone who needed help." For once, Cole had no joke. For years, she believed power meant never needing rescue. Cole shattered that illusion and gave her freedom to trust. And when dawn rose over Nithra, the galaxy gained a legend, not of the strongest warrior, but of the nameless human who walked through a door when everyone else looked away, and taught a queen that sometimes the bravest word in any language was simply enough.